This scene is not in Miss Austen's pages, yet it might well have happened on a quiet evening at Netherfield. I am here to visit Jane after the birth and to lend a hand with the cheerful work of these first days. If you will indulge me, let me begin not with paper, but with you. I will say aloud what one usually entrusts to ink, for at this moment I am keeping one small secret. The journey was gentle. Mamma is overjoyed. Jane is all calm light. The baby sleeps like a little king. As for me, I think of him, and I miss him. Grant me one small kindness. Imagine these few minutes as a narrow path between the lines, from it to the letter, from voice to ink. Netherfield, evening. My dear Mr. Darcy, my Fitzwilliam, I write from a room that looks over the garden. Dusk has already folded the avenues into shadow. Below, by the door, a steady lamp and the brisk steps of the servants keep their little rule of light. Let me begin with what you most wish to know, that you may not be anxious for a single minute. The journey was entirely easy. The carriage swayed gently, the horses were excellent, and Georgiana proved the most considerate of companions. She watched that I did not grow cold, tucked the shawl about me, and begged me not to gaze out too long, lest I tire myself. I promise I obeyed her almost as well as I obey you, though I must confess the fields, with a few cows set upon them like warm, scattered shadows, and the hedgerows scented with grass kept asking for my eyes. Do not worry for me. I arrived without fatigue and feel quite myself. Yes, a soft drowsiness visits me at times, and I do not dispute it. It seems to have become my constant companion. You will understand why I speak so carefully. Will you suffer me to call our little secret the spring to come? Georgiana smiles whenever she hears the phrase, and insists that I send you her warmest regards. Now for our arrival. We reached Netherfield at twilight. The house breathes precisely that quiet which your friend loves. The drawing-room was full. Mamma is already here, distributing orders and blessings in equal measure. Kitty and Lydia relieve each other in the office of aunt by the hour. Mary attempts to lull the baby with a chapter from some improving volume, and, to our surprise, it serves nearly as well as a lullaby. From the moment we crossed the threshold, Charles has not strayed far from Jane. A cushion adjusted, a glass of water fetched, a hand raised to hush the room. His care is touching and a little comic, in the happiest sense. He is kinder than ever. Perhaps fatherhood lends a man a new species of tenderness that he did not know was in him. And now to the true hero of these days. Our nephew is a sturdy fellow with a serious gaze, as if he had entered the world not only to listen, but to observe. His hand is so small, and yet he takes one's finger with such assurance that Mamma exclaims, "A true Bingley! He will never let anything go." He smells of milk and something wholly new, as though the very first scent of spring had been carried in from the garden. Jane is tranquil, and that calm light of hers spreads through the whole house. She bears everything admirably, though one sees that her strength is still returning. I try to be near when I am wanted, and to withdraw when happiness wants no help. You will ask after Mamma? She is quite transported with joy, and has already contrived to quarrel with half the servants from pure zeal. Her happiness is a noisy thing, full of words and sighs and ornamented histories of how she foresaw it all at the very first glance at Charles. The best young man in the county, Papa smiles at the window. His irony has grown softer. I believe he is happy to be in a house where everyone is busy with some business that requires of him no order at all. only his presence. He has already announced that the baby should be carried out at such hours as will preserve at least the appearance of quiet in the house. And Jane smiled so sweetly that he, a little abashed, fell silent and retreated to the library. Kitty has grown notably. She keeps her seat by Jane, quiet and deft with the linen. Lydia came in as a whirlwind, of course, and immediately began instructing everyone in the proper handling of infants. Half an hour later, her own enthusiasm tired her, and she declared that merry company is what suits babies best. Mary has found a calling in lullabies, and, I must confess, sings more softly now. A very small listener has extraordinary power to govern tone. Aunt Phillips sent a basket of pies and a note in the spirit of I always said. And Aunt Gardner promises to come next week. In a house with a baby, she says, there are no unnecessary hands. As for Georgiana, she is a wonder. She holds the little one with such confidence, one would think she had been an aunt all her life. He quiets at once in her arms. Then she goes to the pianoforte and touches a few soft chords, and the sound lies upon his breathing like a light coverlet. I look at her and think how much you have done for her peace. It lives in her now as a habit. Of the affairs you remained to settle. I know your temper. You wish to bring everything to an end before our great day. I shall not be more particular, that I may not invite Mamma's curiosity should this letter fall into her hands. Permit me 1 minute of solemnity. Do not overwork yourself. You have a manner of sparing yourself least where there is duty to be done. But now your health has become a part of mine. I know how you chide a steward who lingers, and how you go to the stables yourself when the grooms seem slow. Promise me that these few days you will hasten in only one direction: home. Charles, by the way, has grown a trifle like you in business. He has ordered all Netherfield to move as regularly as a clock, and yet contrives not to trouble Jane with a single question. I cannot help smiling. You and he are two sides of one medal. On one, tenderness; on the other, good judgment. Both are equally necessary. News of our friends. Charlotte Lucas, now Mrs. Collins, became a mother before us all, as you know. Her letter, received yesterday, breathes that composure she wears as a gown without a crease. She writes that the child is strong, that Hunsford does not sound louder than it used to, and that Mr. Collins takes part in the cultivation of his son's soul by solemn walks round the kitchen garden. I can see you smiling at that line. Lady Catherine, of course, has not left Charlotte at peace. Her counsels are as frequent as the strokes of a bell, and sometimes as loud. Charlotte manages. She possesses that rare talent for submission that keeps its inner dignity. I admire her quietly. A few lines, only to set your mind entirely at rest, about how I am. The road did me no harm. I slept a little longer this morning, and permitted myself, for the first time in an age, a cup of hot chocolate, prescribed, I assure you, by nature herself. At night I listen to the house. Its rhythm differs from Pemberley's, but the balance is the same. Our spring to come reminds me of itself with great delicacy. A touch of weariness now and then. A sudden desire for apples. Mamma immediately ordered a whole bowl to be sliced. If I draw the shawl across my waist, it is more to keep our secret a few weeks longer than from any need. Georgiana guards me better than any maid. Even Mrs. Hurst has owned that Miss Darcy possesses a natural capacity for care, which, believe me, is the highest degree of praise from a person who rarely acknowledges merit in others. Pray write how all goes with you, not only what is set down in the account books, but what is happening in the garden and the stables. I know how much it signifies to you to finish what you have begun before. Let me speak in hints again. And I know that certainty is the best support. If Mr. Reynolds, I always forget. How am I to speak of Mrs. Reynolds properly in a sentence? Conveys my letter to you. Ask her to send me a few lines about our people. Whether everyone is well cared for. Whether the library misses you. I am sure she misses you more than you miss her. Of our pleasant neighbours. The Bingley sisters, or rather Miss Bingley, acquits herself admirably in the new circumstances. She has learnt to speak of the baby as if she had invented infants herself. Her compliments are as exact as a tailor's stitches, and almost not offensive, perhaps because she truly loves her brother. Mrs. Hurst, by contrast, prefers to admire the child at a little distance, as she would a picture. But I once saw her, believing herself unobserved, set the blanket straight with a tenderness that surprised me. I caught myself thinking I missed your look from the window. You have a talent for standing a little apart and seeing what is principal. Yesterday, while I rocked our nephew, it seemed suddenly that you had come in. The vision was so clear. You taking the child, a little awkwardly but with assurance, a very small hand fastening upon your coat, you trying to loosen it, laughing. I cannot write of it without smiling. One comic item. Mamma has already decided that the christening must take place in such weather as will favour both health and decoration, and has prepared a list of suitable days. Papa asked whether we should not appoint the weather first and then the christening. I am still laughing at Mamma's face. Now for what is hardest to set down and easiest to feel. I miss you. I carry our room at Pemberley with me like a perfume. Sometimes, if I close my eyes, I hear the turn of your page and catch that very pause in your breathing that comes before your smile. Here, among familiar voices and the new breathing of an infant, it is particularly clear to me that the quiet beside you is my favourite place in the world. Do not scold me for tenderness. It arrives of itself, like our spring to come. Last, a few small requests, that you may not call this letter nothing but a confession. If Mr. Trevor finally settles the lease by the North Grove, I beg you not to delay your decision. The tenant is a conscientious man, and I know how much autumn signifies to him. In the orangery, pray see whether the laurel pots ought to be moved. They suffered from a draught last winter. And should you happen upon my tortoise-shell comb, the one that vanished somewhere between our walk and tea, hide it in the casket on my table. I am sure it will be found precisely when one has ceased to look for it. Give my thanks to Mrs. Reynolds for her care of the old gardener. Aunt Gardner wrote that she met him last month. He is brisk and declares that even the apples know their duty at Pemberley. This, my dear, is very like you. I must close, for Georgiana has brought me a note from Jane. It seems the baby approves her new lullaby. She insists it is in C major, with a light contribution from his aunt. I shall answer her as soon as I have sealed this for you. Come soon, my dearest. Finish what you must, but remember, it is not only your business that waits for you, and not only I. A house waits for you in which one very small person already breathes, and where, I hope, another very small heartbeat will be heard before long. Your Lizzie. Postscriptum. Do not be alarmed by my caution. I am truly careful and obedient in everything. If you send a reply, address it to the hands of Miss Darcy. Georgiana already keeps secrets better than many grown people.